Told me I can't do F-bombs today, so I gotta sing a song that is not like that at all. That's what we're gonna do today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Atomic Mass Transmissions Live. I'm not gonna paint until I see some chatter. I'm just gonna stand here and look at you. There you go. That's better. Today we're painting up. Look, I'm on vacation tomorrow on Friday, Tony. I'm having a good time. We're going to be painting up.
Short timing today?
I'm short timing today. We're just having a good time. We're just having fun. Look at that. Everybody's like, oh, hello from Ireland. I've been to Ireland. It was great. Today we're painting up Spider-Man from the new Earth's Mightiest core box. I believe this means we've painted all the characters from the Earth's Mightiest core set, except for the Ultron bots, I think. I just put those together. Maybe I'll do like a blog about those or something for y'all, because they're very, very cool and a lot of fun to paint. So, but we're going to paint Spider-Man. I'm going to try to paint this in 45 minutes. I think Spider-Man is one of those characters that like can pose a lot of questions and some tricky bits, but with a little practice and understanding, you can get it down to about 45 minutes to an hour, actually. And honestly, like there might be an opportunity for you to learn how to do that live at Adepticon. Spoilers. Who knows? Tony, let's kick it to the mini cam. I've got I got this sweet Spider-Man. One might say amazing or spectacular Spider-Man. Good evening from a cool, damp UK. It's cold and damp here. It's that Seattle-ness. It's serious this week. It's been kind of great because, I don't know, Tony, I was done with this heat.
I'm never done with the heat, but
No.
It is rainy today.
It was very rainy. It was Did it storm where you were at? It stormed in Seattle.
Yeah, we had some flickery lights going on.
Yeah, it was like kind of concerning there for a little bit. And then it stopped. Awkwardly looking into each other's eyes. That's the kind of content I'm here for. Yeah, I'll be weird. That's fine. How did you come up with the concept of including? Well, why is it Venom? I mean, it's Venom, but it's not Eddie Brock. So first off, let's talk about what I'm doing. I'm using a very translucent. I'm using the transparent yellow from Monument, and I'm going to lay down a layer of yellow first here. I did Zenith Prime, but I went very, very heavy on the white. Spider-Man's a very bright colored character, so I want to build in more shadows, but I also want to use these transparents a lot. So I went really, really heavy on the white, and it kind of blew the shadows out. Works really great for this character. Okay, so including the Venom on the base. So Spider-Man, we've talked a lot about spider characters in general on our streams, and they're very interesting characters to work with. I always try to think of spider characters. They're like a spring. They're very either they're a spring about to spring or a spring already sprung, right? They're coiled or they're unleashed. And they're very airborne. And airborne is not something that miniatures are particularly good at because you have the base. I see there's a lot of questions today, and I'm going to get to them, but I am going to pontificate for a moment because I think this is a very cool topic, miniature design and spiders in general, and the miniature design of spiders can get very interesting. I think I've told the story about Marco and I. The very first thing, the very first day at Atomic Mass, we put up our dry erase board, and we wrote the word the Spider-Man conundrum because figuring out the engineering of Spider-Man was something that we were like, can we even figure it out? And we did. But there was a time where Marco and I were having literally like multiple conversations a day on how to figure out how to make Spider-Man work from an engineering perspective. But anyways, posing. Airborne miniatures, because you have the limitation or the, I don't want to say limitation, I don't think that's a fair word, but you have to use a base, right? You have a physical object that has to connect to the base. There's no other way about it. Before somebody comes in here and saying like, ultra cold magnets or something, like, I don't think anybody wants to pay for that. And I don't want to get into the technology personally. But you have to attach the miniature to the base. So it's the first thing you got to think about whenever you're designing these characters is how they attach to the base. And with spiders, you really kind of want them up in the air to some extent. Not always. So we had already done, the Peter Parker from the core set. We did the Amazing Spider-Man. I'm going to use the Monument Sky Blue to paint this blue. So we'd already done Peter Parker core set. We done the Miles Morales. We did the Amazing Spider-Man, which was an interesting, like, we really wanted somebody web slinging, like really the web slingingness. And also just philosophically, I like Peter Parker in. I think Peter Parker is the most Spider-Man when his back is against the wall, right? Like he kind of comes into every situation, lighthearted and full of youth and that comedic sort of attitude. And then he gets, and he gets himself like, and he holds back, and then he gets his back against the wall, and he has to like, that's when he becomes really Spider-Man, right? Kind of. So I like Spider-Man in danger, apparently. I think it just makes for unique measures. So anyways, okay, so we got Amazing Spider-Man. He's web slinging. We do the Rivals panel Spider-Man, leaping out of the way of a dodging a Doc Ock blast. Just one of my favorite sculpts to paint. Very dynamic, very cool sculpt. I used it for the Worthy entry, and we actually saw several of those being used for Worthy entries. And so when it came time to do the updated core set, we knew we wanted Spider-Man in the air. We wanted to show action. Also, I have a pretty solid rule of Spider-Man should never be doing something I can do, right? If I or Tony can get in the pose of a spider, then that's not a hard rule, I guess. But it's sort of a philosophy to think about, right? Like Spider-Man is always like so twisty and noodly. He's so flexible. So capturing all that. So really this started out as just the pose with it not even touching the ground, which is not a typical way I like to work or have anybody work. Like we really want to think about that. How is the miniature connected to the base? It's just a fundamental part of design. Tony knows this. Tony does some of the concepts with us. Tony's in here, by the way. Tony's running the machine today. Sorry. I exposed you, Tony. I know you don't like that. But like we think about these and we go over multiple versions a lot of times, or sometimes one time. You never know. Sometimes you just knock it out of the park the first time. So it's like you kind of get a pose going, and it was like, well, now how do like I like the idea of him dodging, right? Like this is very like, especially if you look at it from like the not glamour angle. Like this is sort of is that the glamour angle? Am I right? From this camera, Tony. Yeah, it was really like this shot though. This like imagining something like coming here, and he's like doing that cool spin. You see it in like some of the live action stuff. Like he does that cool spin and goes around things. And so like thinking about like the way Peter Parker moves was sort of essential to like developing the story. And I don't even remember how it came up. Either someone suggested it or I just kind of doodled it, like this little blob of symbiote just trying to grab him, and he's too dodgy, right? It's Peter Parker, Spider-Man. He's too dodgy for this nonsense. And it was just kind of fun and cool and different, and you know, a lot of times it's what we want. Like, you know, we can do a miniature with 2 feet on the ground standing there. That's easy stuff. But we have a material with hard plastic that allows us to push boundaries and limits. And as artists and designers and, you know, developers and philosophers and dreamers and, you know, all those wonderful things, like it's you want to think about and try to create something evocative and new and interesting for, you know, the story on the tabletop. And this is kind of where we ended up. Oh no, we're not seeing that in the next transmission. I have some Pagani poses too, funny enough. I have some Pagani standing there trying to look very cool. I think he did a Mystique pose. I think Pagani posed for a Mystique. It's not one that got used actually, but I remember taking this picture. It was in my office, and I was like, and he comes walking in, and I was like, stop, and I handed him a toy blaster, right? And I was like, do something like this, and I kind of did like sort of a, you know, spy-esque pose, and Pagani struck the pose, and I took the picture, and then we didn't use it because that's the way it works. I missed half the chat. I was just philosophizing and just talking. All right, so we did a clear yellow, transparent yellow. I'm going to do transparent orange. Who at AMG can provide the best for artistic purposes? Pose artistic.
That's definitely Dallas. Dallas does the best concept poses.
I draw the most ridiculous capes in the concept poses, which I pointed out to Josh. I found did I share that to you, Tony?
I don't think so.
I found a Wills Porcio. He was an X-Men artist in the 90s and 80s, and there's a picture of Storm and Forge, and they're walking, and for some reason he draws Storm's cape like literally like 20 feet long, right? It's just like that's just not the length of her cape. It's just not. But it looks really cool from a composition and just rule of cool standpoint. And so like I saw that, and I took a picture of it, and I sent it to Josh in person, and I was just like, okay, so this is why my capes are ridiculous. I know it is now. Like subconsciously I am drawing 1992 X-Men capes on everybody, like just long and angular, and then we like, so that is actually a fact. I draw like these really big gigantic capes, and then I send it to the group, and Schick is usually the first one to comment like, you can't have a cape that big, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but yeah, I know.
I know we can't have that.
Like
What if we did?
what if we did? Like have you ever asked those questions? Like, what if we did? Now I'm going to use orange, and I'm going to go over the yellow. So this is how I painted all my Spider-Mans, with this basic same philosophy. And it makes for a very quick and poppy Spider-Man, I feel. Yeah, if you ever look at a miniature and you think this cape could have been bigger, you just, in your head, just think Will Schick. And then if you ever get a miniature and you're like, this cape is too big, you can thank me. I saw Schick was using the worst paintbrush yesterday, and now today I'm using the worst paintbrush. This is what we do apparently around here now. It's like, can you find the worst paintbrush in the pot? Yup. Come on, what other questions you got? No, you got more questions. I feel it in my bones. Base cape. Oh yeah, I drew that one, and that was so. If you look at Beta Ray build, that is very much an homage to Mighty Thor. I'm going to get the number wrong. 325, 326. It's got Beta Ray Bill on the cover. It's very, very much an homage. That was one of those ones like we thought about just copying the pose like straight off the cover almost, but like it actually doesn't work in miniature because once you get that pose in 3D, there's a couple leg issues that come up. So you kind of got to change the pose a little bit. Lift the head for miniature. You don't want to hide the heads. Hiding the head. Oh, it drives me crazy when miniatures hide the heads. You know, sometimes it's inevitable and you're going to do it, but try to avoid that. Just from a design philosophy, like just keep the head visible. Look at that Spider-Man. Huh, and done. No, I'm not. Let's use gray blue. Just a little bit of that. And a little neutral gray. That's a lot of neutral gray. Holy cow. Put those together. We're going to put this on the webbing. Spider-Man is just one of my favorite characters to paint. I love painting this character. I think I have 6 or 7 Spider-Mans at home painted. Maybe my most painted MCP miniature is all the different. Well, it's all the different Spider-Mans. Collectively, Peter Parker's might be the most painted character I have for MCP. Who has painted somebody more than once? Let me know. I love painting characters more than once. I do have another Beta Ray build to paint. The one we worked on stream, where we converted it with the sword and I still have not had time to paint that one. which is unfortunate. I'm very happy with that conversion, but I just have not had time to paint that one up. But I painted 2 other ones. Are you using your favorite go-to paints or selecting a palette prior to starting this paint? I'm just using what's available on the desk. Just using some Pro Acryl. I've painted this same character with a multitude of paints. Even just like straight up artist acrylic paints. Like I like having a selection of artist acrylic paints. Sometimes I bust out and just paint with those for a little bit. I kind of go all over the place. Every paint has its strength and weaknesses, and like to experiment. Chick is learning and experimenting with a lot of oils right now. So, it's explore, grow, fail. Remember, we talk about it all the time. Can't learn by winning. TK, I have every desire to paint Colossus again. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think I have 2 Colossuses. I have the red and silver, and then I did a black and white. Because you gotta have X-Force. I've done at least Captain America 3 times. I have 3 Captain Americas waiting for me. That's the one character that keeps getting pushed aside for some reason. I did the conversion, if everybody remembers, way back. I took the Nick Fury. Miniature and converted it to Captain America, and doing that in a darker kind of Ultimates kind of situation. And then I have the new Earth Mightiest cap I have not painted. Shit got to paint him on stream, so I haven't made it to him yet. I painted 2 of the 4 Spider-Mans, learned a lot, hope to apply a new one. Yeah, that's what it's all about. We learn, we grow, we try something new, we develop a new skill, and we share it with the world, and they tell us, hey, that's pretty good. We say thanks. This is the Monument Transparent Blue over top of that wonderful sky blue. Fun part is like this is pretty thin and washy, so if it kind of touches those little web lines, it's going to sink right into those web lines. It's going to go down in those web lines. It's going to darken those web lines for us. Just be a little careful around all the bits and bobs and doodles. I know I've talked about before, I have an idea for another Wolverine, and I'm going to have to execute on this project eventually. Like, I just haven't, but I have a Wolverine project in my mind that someday I'm just going to have to do it. I'm just going to have to knuckle down and spend the time, because it's a big project. It's going to require like 40 miniatures plus a Wolverine. I'm just going to tease that forever. I'm just going to tease it forever. Like 20 years from now, the people who've really been around for a long, long time, I'm finally going to do it, and they're going to be like, he's doing it. And new people will be like, what is this? What is this nonsense?
Dallas, I'm giving you a time check of 125 because I don't know what your process is, but if you're not done with that red Spider-Man paint job, by the time we run out of time, we're going long.
Oh, Tony, what? It happens every now and then. The little kiosk where I get my coffee in the morning, that is definitely full of coffee grounds. That is gross. That is just a mouthful of dirt. I do have a full Wakanda board to finish. Actually, I'm thinking about doing that this weekend. kicked around idea around doing a second Eddie Brock Venom since he came out. Do it. Oh, we would love to see it. Do you paint when you feel like it, or do you create a schedule to complete? Oh, man, that's a great question. That's a great question, Darren. I do not. Well, Tony, how deep do we want to go on this one? Are we going to get saucy about the muse and my opinions of the muse?
I love getting saucy about the muse.
I do not believe in the muse. I don't believe in it. I got to keep painting. Tony threatened me. I don't believe in the muse. I don't believe in the waiting around for inspiration sort of philosophy that many artists want to like contrive. And if it works for them, it works for them. That's fine. I'm talking about personal. This is not an attack. This is just for me. I am not patient enough for the muse. For me, inspiration and motivation comes from application. By sitting down, even when you don't wanna, putting pen to the paper, paint to the canvas, words to the word sheet. I don't know what poets do. By doing, you create the inspiration. You find the drive. By setting down and putting in work, if you just do it, like I've always said, 15 minutes a day will change your life. And the reason I say that is because for me, in my experience and the way I work, if I sit down for 15 minutes, if I'm just like, all right, I really don't want to do this today, but I told myself 15 minutes. If I sit down and I just go, okay, it's going to be 15 minutes, and I pick up that paintbrush, and I get out that miniature, and I start applying some thought and some care and some love to a little miniature, my little project, it's going to be 2 hours or an hour before I realize how long it's been. You know what I mean? I'm going to be like, man, I really got into that. I got it too. Fleb, I got that. I feel you. It's the hyperfixation. It's the getting wrapped up in the next little question. How do I rectify this part on the back here? How do I handle this line? It's the constant little asking of all the little questions, and that's what drives that desire for the next thing for me, right?
What I always find interesting is that the number of times where I've been resistant to start something or found excuses not to start something, but just had a hard time getting started. And then once I actually get going on it, it is very difficult to stop. Yeah. If you have legitimate focus, like give yourself 15 minutes and then give yourself 15 minutes to get up and walk around and give yourself 15 minutes back at that paintbrush. The passion and the desire lies within, and you can harness that muse. You can be in control of your inspiration. You can be in control of that passion and get the work done. And that's how it works for me. That's, and maybe it'll work for you, maybe it won't. We're all different. No one should be teaching you that there's a silver bullet solution to every problem. That's just wrong. We're all different people experiencing existence differently. So, So I do have to push up my nerd glasses for one.
Nerd it up, Tony Konachek.
So, as I understand, the classical vision of the muse is actually combines with exactly what you said. The muse is not out there floating and you wait for them to come by. the muse only shows up when you're working.
Yeah.
So they aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, they go together, but you have to do the work to call the muse.
You have to call her. You can't sit there and you're not a teenager. You're not picking up the rotary dial phone and putting in all the digits, six of the digits, but not that last one, hoping that she's on the other end calling the same number back to you, right? You have to, the muse will come to you when you put in the work and you show that you deserve the visit, right? Harness that, control it. And sometimes you have a deadline. I'm a person that has to work on deadlines. I've studio painted. I've, was a freelancer, and you have deadlines. And like sometimes you find yourself like, I gotta do this, and you learn how to work through it, and you learn how to become a better painter because of it. I'm just working in that red. Deadlines are wonderful for some people. I know Tony likes a deadline.
I love a deadline.
He just wants to know exactly when you want it. Don't tell him it can be whenever. You'll never get it. Or you'll get it tomorrow because you want it off his plate. I can't think about this anymore.
That's exactly right. I'll always, if I have unlimited time, I'll always find something else that needs to get done first.
We're just kicking up that red just a little bit more. I want that orange and that yellow to shine through in spots, right? That's what gives it that wonderfulness.
So these darker spots of red, are you just building up more of that red color, or have you added a different red into that?
This is just more of the red color, and then I'm using that second brush to kind of like let it blend away. I'm kind of looking at where the natural like translucency and that thinness of that paint broke away, and where that yellow kind of shines through the most, and avoiding those areas, and then just kind of letting that red blend away.
That's actually interesting. That's not a thing I've heard talked about in miniature painting very much. It's just that natural break point when you're doing a wash or something thin, and just finding that natural point on the miniature where the color starts to pull apart. Is that something that you do regularly, or just kind of on this miniature?
No, I kind of do it regularly, like when I'm depending on the project I'm working on or how I'm approaching it. Because like I think Tony, like I don't have a set style. I kind of flitter a lot.
Right.
And paint a lot of different ways, and kind of approach miniatures. Even the same miniature, I'll approach it different ways each time sometimes. Let's go with Hold Your Blue. I said it. But yeah, like you can use those washes and those inks sort of to like let the paint break. I do like the way, I do like that saying, right? Break away. And kind of develop a place for those colors to separate. Use that Hold Your Blue for that deep shadow. A little blended blue out. By the way, adding the palette window is a good improvement for the transmissions. Tony, you did it.
Woo me.
That was Tony today. Tony's idea. Tony's like, I think I can make it where the palette just stays in the window. And I was like, do it, bro. And if the people like it, maybe we'll continue it. Gotta give the people what they want. Spider armpits. Get a little watercolory here. Sometimes you just gotta get a little watercolory. Have a little fun, a little artsy. See, it's funny, we were upstairs eating lunch, and what did I say, Tony? I'm not ready. I'm not ready to paint today. Like today was one of those days. I was like, I don't know, I'm just not ready to paint today. And now we're 30 some minutes in, and I'm like, I don't want to stop painting the Spider-Man.
Do you have a magic number for when you get into that zone? Mine is about 20 to 30 minutes. If I can do a good solid 20 to 30 minutes of something, you probably have a hard time getting me to stop after that.
The fugue state?
Yeah, exactly.
Man, I'm going to say it depends, Tony. I'm going to say it depends. I've definitely had I don't want to do this, but I'm going to go do it anyways. And I stopped my foot, and I sit down at the desk, and like literally within seconds, I'm just gone. Like, I'm just out of the stratosphere, and I'm floating, and I've got some music playing, and I'm just vibing, and I've got paint going everywhere, and I'm just like happy as a clam, just doing my little silly miniature painting thing. And then I've had other times where like I've struggle where I kind of go in and out, and I kind of fight it. So I don't think I have a set number. I'm jealous that you're just like 20 minutes. I'm done. Like if you can make it 20 minutes, your wife can't even call you to dinner. You ain't even listen to those kids like ever again.
I don't know that I have much choice but to listen to those kids. They are in my face all the time.
That's
great.
That is true. Let's put a little blue in this. I love symbiotes with that little blue. So I'm gonna pull a little bit of that hold your blue down into the symbiote. I think what this is also going to do is it gives a nice attachment from like Spider-Man to the symbiote. Shows the connection like artistically, visually, right? Man, what else do we want to talk about? What a day so far. What paint am I using? Currently I'm using a bunch of different paints from Monument Pro Acryl. Let's do a little highlighting on those muscles. Here we are, face to face. A couple of silver spoons. A little highlight. We'll keep kicking that up. I want to go to a little more that blue, touch of red, make a rich purple. Let's go a little more red, actually. A little more red. Now this just gonna tip, tip, tap. Don't gotta be perfect. It's not for a painting competition.
Dallas, is there a quality to the paint that makes doing those detail lines a little easier if you're filling them in with the hairline brush?
Yeah, I've got this really like you can see how thin it is. Like it's water, and I have the tiniest little amount touched on the brush, and I'm just going to the deepest areas of the form, and just put a little bit of that deep purple down in there.
Sorry, I just got to call out that we just had a gong go off next door. I have no idea why or what's happening.
Okay, I heard that too, and I thought you did something. I was like, did we get sound effect? Did we get a soundboard? Finally, a soundboard. Liz, I don't know if you're watching. Can we get a soundboard? I would like a Veluzova sound. Thwip. Thwack. So the other trick I've done in the past on the other Spider-Man is just do a whole wash of blue. And then you just kind of come back through and just pick those reds back up. Works very well. I'm not particularly interested in that today. No offense, Spider-Man. I don't know if we can talk about the plans for painting classes yet at Adepticon. But by me saying that, did I talk about them? Kind of.
Talk about what?
The plans for painting classes at Adepticon?
Oh, I don't know. I am looking forward to taking some, though. If I get to go, I would like to get into some of those classes and learn some more, up my technique.
Trying to open the skills left and right. The question is too far off, don't answer, but conceptually, how do you approach doing the windshields on, say, Deadpool's taco truck? You can hear my tummy rumbling. Can you hear my tummy rumble? I just ate lunch. I had a good lunch, too. I had leftovers. They were real yummy. And I had yeasty rolls, and Tony does not know what a yeast roll is. Can somebody explain that yeast rolls are a thing?
All right, I got to jump in here. The problem is not that I don't understand the concept of a yeasty roll. What I don't understand is I don't know, like I can't conceptualize the flavor of yeast, and therefore I can't imagine what a yeasty roll versus a regular dinner roll tastes like, or a non-yeast roll.
See, I say yeasty roll, and immediately in my mouth, I get the full yeasty experience of a yeasty roll.
So you now have to bring me a yeasty roll so that I can taste it and put those two concepts together. I have
Fine.
the words, I may have the flavor, but I don't know which one belongs with
All
which.
right, fine, I'll do it. They're yeasty. They're real yeasty. They're overly yeasty. Ah, I'm so exhausted. They're like super yeasty. They're like mega yeasty. I feel like I'm being gas lamped. This is conspiracy. Everybody's like, never heard of a yeasty roll. They're real yeasty, man. Ugh. Fine, nobody defend me. I don't care. Take Tony's side. I'm gonna put a little bit of that purple into the shadows. Why? Because it's fun. Why, you say? I don't know. Just thought it'd be cool. Yeah, I like that little bit of purple and that blue. TK421, the yeast roll can easily become an addiction. Yes. I was telling the story about, I remember the first time I had a yeast roll. I was probably 6 years old. We went to a restaurant. I was a kid, and I never had a yeast roll before, and I ate one, and then I ate so many I got sick. Ate so many for a 6-year-old. I guarantee to this day that restaurant house staff just like, there was a 6-year-old. You need 12 of those yeast rolls. It is definitely soup season. Oh, maybe this weekend I'll make roasted squash soup. Okay. Oh, we got the puns going on today. Oh, this brush is terrible for this. I'm being very quiet. I'm thinking about painting. I call upon the muse of miniature art. Bring me a painting of Spider-Man. It's fine. I'm doing the little details.
Dallas, Dazak has a good question for you.
Okay, hold on.
Not really a question, but something for you to editorialize on.
Fault mistake correction when painting. Oh. How much for the artwork featured in the lower right corner? I don't know what that means.
I think he's talking about the fountain.
Oh. Oh, here, this? How to handle mistakes. Oh, let's do this. Okay, you ready? You know this is going to be the time where I mess it up. Right? Where I don't actually fix it. Are we on the miniature?
Yep.
Okay. So there's lots of different ways to make a mistake. There's lots of different ways to make a mistake. That's true. When you want to fix a mistake, there's a lot of different approaches. Probably like the misstroke is probably the most common, like putting paint where you don't want it. That's one of the big reasons I keep a second brush at hand, a second damp brush at hand. That's my eraser brush. So if I were to be painting and I were to be like, oops, you grab a damp brush and you just wipe it away, right? There's also just a million ways to just cover things and fix them, just through the process. Like many times I've seen people say they made a mistake while painting, but there's still so many levels in the process that the mistake just really actually doesn't matter, because you can coat over it or blend it down into the layers that are coming. So they're not really mistakes, they're just texture and some fun. Tony, what's the word we've been using a lot lately when we're talking about painting stuff? Tonality. Tonality. You can just add it to your tonality of the piece. So, but the big thing is just like you do a brush stroke, you grab a damp brush. Oh, I got the hiccups now.
Oh, come down more on the thigh.
Like here?
Yeah, closer to the foot.
Here?
You can stay
Here?
on the leg. Yeah, you just want to. It was
Like
top plane was hard to see. Yeah, the calf there is good.
Like you're like, that looks terrible. Grab a second brush. It's just a damp brush. And just whisk it away. Just whisk it away. So I like a little blue, so I added some of that gray blue to the titanium bold white. Is that what it's called? Heavy titanium white. I like a little blue in Spider-Man's lenses. It's kind of like catching a little bit of sky or something in the reflection. This is just the tip of the brush. The brush wants to do a good job for you, so let it. Yeah, I mean, it's when you're doing something like the eyes, that's when you just want to take time. You want to be patient. You want to breathe. Just take a breath. You're not trying to rush it. You're not in a race. Just keep breathing and let the tip of the brush do the work. It's better to waggle that brush over the miniature and not actually touch it a few times. Than to just go in and just hee-yah and just slop a big blob of paint. There's a Tony, I'm sure in like illustration, like you've studied a lot of illustration. There's like that idea where like you put the pen or the brush above the paper and you draw the line in the air multiple times before committing to it.
Yeah, it's called ghosting.
Ghosting, there you go. A very positive form of ghosting. Not the negative form of ghosting. I do that a lot, especially when you're going to do freehand. I kind of do the brushstroke a couple times, like say on this little spider. I might do the brushstroke a couple times, like in the air. Like I'm not actually touching that yet. And then I'm just like, yeah. And then I'm like thinking about it. I'm like getting the range. I'm like setting my sight, setting my rangefinder, zeroing in, stay on target, and then take the shot basically, right? And just stay breathing, stay calm, stay relaxed. You're not in a hurry, you're not in a rush, it's not a competition, it's not a race. Blah blah. And we'll put a little, let's get that little hold your blue, really thin it down. Maybe a little touch of white. Now I'm pretty much done. I am pretty much done. We're going to do one last thing and then we're going to call it. We're going to use a little red, bright pyro red, warm yellow. We're not even going to have to go over very far, Tony. I can't go too far. I have a 2:30 meeting. We're going to mix these together.
How much do you want to be in that meeting?
Oh, that's a
Maybe
good
we
question.
gotta go till 2:45.
That's a good question. Okay, how's it looking, kids?
What's your selection process for where you're putting the paint right now?
Oh, it's pure emotion. Just kind of looking at like kind of once again, it's sort of that same see ya, Darren. It's sort of that same philosophy of like where those early washes kind of were pulled back the furthest and sort of re-kicking those, right? Just thinking about where highlights want to be.
And I also like that concept that, there's fundamental techniques to painting and art and best practices and all that, but it is nice to remember that sometimes it's, because it feels good, because you want it, because it feels like that's where it should go.
Yeah, there's so many discussions in painting, right? It's like, well, actually, the light source would not actually do this, and so like, yeah, you're right, it wouldn't, but it looks cool. Like, it looks cool. And I'm a person I'm a firm believer in rule of cool. Add a little more red to this, drop it down, go to that tummy. Just picking up some upper areas. You clean up the ridge of that boot. Right, so in basically an hour, I painted a Spider-Man that is perfectly wonderful for the tabletop. If this was a competition piece, we'd go further, but for the tabletop, I've done this in an hour. And I'm always very pleased with an hour-long paint job for the tabletop. I want to do a little more shading on the lens. Probably pop that spider symbol on his chest a little more, and then of course finish the symbiote. But of course the symbiote's just probably going to be a lot of washes and glazes and putting some colors in there and stuff like that. Very easy concepts. But really the spider. Oh, and I got to paint the blue or the red spider on the back. But these are always tricky parts on stream. I really want to turn this upside down to get that part. But really, the concepts here is we want to talk about how to get bright poppy colors in a short amount of time. So by laying yellow to orange to red and letting those not be perfect coverages, letting the sort of bad coverage work to our advantage and show us where the next highlight wants to be. You saw that we did one layer blue on the pants, and then we did a couple washes, and we put a shadow in there. I would come through. If I wanted to go further, you could always go further by just adding more highlighting, right? Just really kicking up, the upper thigh, the pectoral, the bicep, all these little cool superhero muscles that no one actually has, but superheroes have. Just kind of ping those in. But we're not super worried about a bunch of perfect blends today. We're just paying for the tabletop and getting a really cool Spider-Man done in literally an hour, Tony, plus all the philosophy about the muse. I'm very happy. Any final thoughts, questions? I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to look at this camera over here. You better ask your questions. You're running out of time. I know there's a delay, but I like putting pressure on. I'm going to do the wrap up, and then I'll answer. Well, that's what we're here for, Elle. We're here to hang out, answer questions, and just talk shop and just paint together. I love painting. I think painting is a very communal thing, and actually, I do a paint jam with a friend of mine every 2 weeks, and boy, oh boy, it keeps me and him both on task. We just hang out for a couple hours and yell about stuff and show each other what we're painting, and it's a lot of fun. So that's another good way, like the muse, like how you stay motivated. Get up. What are they called, Tony, when you have that person that holds you? Like
accountability partner.
That's it. Accountability partner. Get an accountability partner. Get a person to paint with you. Then you'll paint, because then you'll feel like you're behind. You don't want your friend to win. You got to beat your friend. Yes, they are completely dehydrated. Account-a-buddy. Oh, I like account-a-buddy. Account-a-buddy. All right, remember every Tuesday and Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, you can hang out right here like you're already doing on Twitch for Atomic Mass Transmissions Live. You're already doing it. Tell your grandma she wants to hang out and paint miniatures too. For all the latest news, information, and announcements coming from Atomic Mass Games, you should check us out on Twitter and or Instagram. That's where we post all the cool stuff coming, all the fun information, and get ready for Adepticon. It's coming up and stuff like that. So we'll see you later. See you next week. Bye. Go be the hero you want to be.